no inflation. Central banks are increasingly taking actions that may cause harm to the economic stability of developing countries and emerging markets. This is a huge deal and a huge, huge problem. The large-scale printing of dollars by the Federal Reserve has an unintended spillover that's drastically impacting the quality of life of those less privileged and those that need help in developing and emerging markets. And we're facing unprecedented times, check all the data you want, that we haven't seen for a century. Hidden inflation causes rising rates, and it crushes emerging markets. The kid I went to high school with is going to lean over a bar in Manhattan and drink a $35 old fashioned and tell me Bitcoin doesn't matter? Privileged fucking asshole. This is real, and it's happened, and it's happening now, and it's really scary. For those of you that aren't from the US, aren't from Europe, aren't from the UK, live in a developed world, you're tremendously scared. The effects from major country policies will hit emerging countries economically and financially, both. And it's a huge, huge problem. It's a huge problem. Bitcoin fixes this. Bitcoin fixes this. We now have an asset class that has a fixed supply, and the issuance of that is known. It was known when the asset was issued first. The monetary policy is set and protected by a distributed network. There's no central point of failure in this asset. It's open, it's global, it's permissionless. It works the same in a country that's in the developed world as it does in New York City. This network carries no bias. It improves things like remittance, because a lot of the GDP of this developed world is sending money back home. It lowers transaction costs and ultimately improves transaction scalability and financial inclusivity. And so I founded this company called Strike. You may know it, you may not. But the whole thesis behind the company is to take advantage that Bitcoin fixes this. We want to make cross-border payments free. I didn't launch in Europe yet. I want to make cross-border payments free to solve the remittance problem and the financial inclusivity problem and the absolute mess that the Federal Reserve is causing to those that need it most. El Salvador is a great example. It's a country that uses the dollar because in a civil war they lost their own currency. It's a country where over 20% of the GDP is inbound remittance. It's how capital is influx into the economy. However, of that GDP, fees can be upwards to 50%. And the true crime is that there's over 2 million Salvadorians that live in the United States. And people are leaving because of the economic instability and the lack of economic support. The lack of economic opportunity. What that does is it causes individuals to rely on crime and violence, and it ruins the security of the country. And it's generated a tremendous immigration problem. But if you rewind those steps, if you can fix the money, you can fix the world. If we can provide economic stability, economic opportunity, financial inclusion, and if we can build an asset that is defended by an open distributed network, and we have cyber hornets that will fight on that hill and die on that hill and protect it, and we can fix that, then they won't have to resort to crime and violence. They won't be subject to the intermediary financial system that's taking 50% of their remittance. They won't have immigration problems, and they can love the country that they were born in. And I remember we built the first MVP, and my CBO, who's the most successful guy, he's so smart, it's like, all right, let's launch in Europe. And I was like, you're out of your mind, man. I got to go to El Salvador. That's what this is all about. This is all about helping those that need it. I'll beat TransferWise later. And I went. And I lived there. I lived there for almost 3 months. Sorry. I tried to collect a remittance payment. I couldn't do it. The ATM didn't work. It was a lot of dirt roads, and it was sad. There just wasn't a lot of hope. I gave talks. I talked to the kids. I told them, man, we got this. Bitcoin's here. We got this. And I'll tell one story. There's a guy named Chimbera, and I spent a few days with them. It was my first week there. He sat me down, and he said, you know, my grandfather was a fisherman, and my dad was a fisherman, and I thought I was going to be a fisherman. I'm not like you. You got a Chase bank account. You get a debit card. I fish. Nothing more, nothing less. Until Bitcoin, man. Like, I got hope. I scan the same QR codes you do. When Bitcoin goes up 10%, Michael's salary makes a lot of money. So do I. So do I. Chimber's never had a bank account, but he's got a Bitcoin wallet. Chimber's never had a savings account, but he's got a hardware wallet. Chimbera saw that this is financial inclusion, that this is a network and a monetary system that doesn't hold any bias, and there's no intermediary that could tell him that he's not allowed.
Ja, ok. Jeg lurer litt på bare hvordan jeg får sett dette. Ja, for hvis jeg strømmer den på dere, så får ikke jeg hørt det. Jeg burde hatt noe headset.
Didn't have bank
eller noe
accounts.
her.
And
Prøver å få til det her. Nei.
And, boy, the remittance was free. Remittance was instant. Lightning Network works, man. The Lightning Network works. And in real time, we were improving the GDP of the country. And so then I got a message on behalf of the president of the country. And he wanted to talk. And I called my dad. Just kind of pissed my pants. But we talked. This guy's name is Yusuf. And we talked about life. We talked about anime. We talked about how to provide a high quality of life to everyone in the world, about financial inclusivity, about human freedoms and where we lost them and how we can reinstill them. We talked about the world we want to live in and the fact that we build the tools that shape the world that we end up living in. And I met more of the government. I became friends with the security guards. It's a big rifle. And they dropped some really heavy stuff on me. Over 70% of the active population in El Salvador doesn't have a bank account. They're not in the financial system. They had a huge problem of financial inclusivity and providing their citizens with basic human freedom. And so they asked me to help write a bill, and that they viewed Bitcoin as a world-class currency, and that we needed to put it to.
Ok, sånn. Nå tror jeg fiksa det her. To sek. Ok, det som skjer her, det at han fyren her, tydeligvis alle store Bitcoin-folk på Twitter og sånn, har sagt at det kommer en stor nyhet nå klokka 4, og det jo snart en time siden. Men Du er sikkert litt sånn på etterskudd da. Men han fyren her, han skal si et eller annet som tydeligvis skikkelig stort for Bitcoin da. Han skal komme med en annen announcement som skikkelig stort for Bitcoin. Så vi tar en liten sånn kamikaze-trade her også, litt på 50x, for å bare se om den nyheten her nok til å pumpe opp prisen ganske hardt. Og det jo gøy hvis det skjer, og så det såpass lite at hvis vi taper denne, så taper vi denne uten at det gjør noen ting. Men det jo litt gøy. Ja, Thomas Lien, også Vips, så hvis du sjekker beskrivelsen, nei faen, jeg har ikke lagt I det I beskrivelsen, men telefonnummeret mitt kan dere se I chatten her nå. Så hvis Vips det du vil, så det da nummer der, eller så det den linken I chatten der for donasjoner da. Så det som skjer her nå at han snakker om hvor ille verden har det. Hvilket land var det han snakket om? Salvador. Han snakket om Salvador og litt sånn, om hvor ille de har det med pengeprinting, og at pengeprinting ikke rettferdig og sånn. Så han kommer med en litt sånn introduksjon til pengeprinting, og hvorfor land I verden har det helt jævlig nå på grunn av økonomien da. Og så venter vi da på denne nyheten. For å bare se om den nyheten nok på prisen ganske hardt. Og det jo gøy hvis det skjer, og så det såpass lite at hvis vi taper denne, så taper vi. Jeg hører det, men jeg hører ikke det synet. Men det jo litt gøy. Hva som skjer da? Jeg skjønte ingenting. Prisen dumper I hvert fall. Det var visst ikke så stort for prisen I hvert fall. Hva sa han da?
Jeg vet ikke, du skulle dra inn.
Hørte ikke du på det? Ok. Jeg lurer litt på hva han sa. Vent litt. Noen som fikk med seg hva han sa, og hører dere han her nå egentlig, fordi jeg vet ikke om dere hører han.
By financial inclusion to thousands outside the formal economy. And in the medium and long term, we hope that this small decision can help us push humanity and this economy deep into the right direction. I enter politics to leave a legacy for my country. By doing it, and by working with like-minded people, maybe we can help create a legacy for the world.
Headquarters in El Salvador, a Blockstream is involved, which are going to be open.
Ok, la oss bare se på hele den driten her igjen. La oss få med
To
oss hva han sier. Det vel da presidenten I Salvador, hvis ikke jeg tar helt feil, eller han har feil her nå.
Great ideas are beautiful and have great power. But like most beautiful things, they can also be more fragile than we think. When I was a kid, we thought about the future and we were delighted by its possibilities. We couldn't wait for it to happen and be part of its creation. But now, ask almost anyone what they think about the future and they will say something along the lines of nuclear war, climate catastrophe, hunger, pestilence, the death of life. We didn't take care of the beautiful idea that we create our own future, that we as humanity can do almost anything that we imagine. Our ingenuity, what separates us from other species. In El Salvador, we are trying to rescue this idea and start the design of a country for the future, using the best ingredients that makes us who we are, while using sensibility to find the best examples of ideas from history and around the world. I believe Bitcoin could be one of these ideas. That is why next week, I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador. In the short term, this will generate jobs and help provide financial inclusion to thousands outside the formal economy. And in the medium...
Det han sa at han vil gjøre Bitcoin til en legal tender I da El Salvador. Så de skal visst redde Salvador I hvert fall, med bitcoin. Jeg skjønner ikke helt hele greia her, men de skal gjøre bitcoin til en legal tender. Som de...
Long term, we hope that this small decision can help us push humanity and this tiny group into the right direction. I enter politics to leave a legacy for my country. And while doing it, and by working with like-minded people, maybe we can help create a legacy for the world.
Han Pomp skriver det her, at tydeligvis så blir, tydeligvis så blir bitcoin reservevalutaen I Salvador. Det tror jeg var nyheten. Ja, så det her var presidenten I Salvador. Det her var han, det presidenten I Salvador, eller noe sånt, hvis ikke jeg forstod helt feil. Og deres reservevaluta nå I Salvador blir bitcoin da. Legal tender. Ja, ok. Det blir et lovlig betalingsmiddel I hvert fall. Det sikkert. Det blir et lovlig betalingsmiddel I Salvador. Så når du går rundt I gaten I Salvador, så kan du betale rundt med bitcoin. Og så det litt sånn usikkert på om han mente at det da blir reservevalutaen. Det blir vel på en måte det. I hvert fall, Salvador gjør fremskritt for bitcoin. Vi har nå en nasjon I verden som godtar bitcoin som betalingsmiddel, og det vel da de vel den første da, som faktisk tar I bruk. Ja, det reservevaluta. Ja, og så det også bitcoin som blir El Salvadors nye reservevaluta. Hvis du kunne dømt, ikke så mye skjønt det, men...
You got me a gift! You got me a gift, a soccer jersey. It's pretty sick. I want to read my favorite part from the proposed bill.
Kast inn denne her, for å se om dette her blir godt.
Central banks are increasingly taking actions that may cause harm to the economic stability of El Salvador. That in order to mitigate the negative impact from central banks, it becomes necessary to authorize the circulation of a digital currency with a supply that cannot be controlled by any central bank and is only altered in accord with the objective and calculable criteria.
El Salvador har blitt det første nasjonen I verden som gjør bitcoin til et lovlig betalingsmiddel og putter det I reservene sine. Ja, hører hva du tøyter I bakgrunnen. Ja, beklager det hvis lyden helt feil. Men jeg prøver så godt jeg kan da.
So as of now, El Salvador is set to be the first Bitcoin country. And the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender and treat it as a world currency and have a Bitcoin on their reserves.
What are some closing messages?
Ok, men da må jeg stikke. Vi fikk nyheten. Vi fikk da at dette her, presidenten I Salvador, har nå gjort bitcoin til et lovlig betalingsmiddel I Salvador, som da Salvador første nasjonen I verden som gjør bitcoin til et lovlig betalingsmiddel, og har da puttet det som sin reservevaluta. Ja, jeg gjør sikkert det, ja. Men jeg må stikke inn nå. Det var det. Vi kan sikkert snakke mer om dette I morgen. Nå har dere fått det her live I hvert fall, og dere vet at El Salvador har gjort bitcoin til sin reservevaluta og et lovlig betalingsmiddel som første nasjon I verden som gjør dette her da.